Well, I think it's going to happen very, very quickly. I think we're going to have a recession. I think it's going to be a very, very serious and severe recession. It's going to be a long recession. I think there's lots of things that have got to be worked out. There's got to be a lot of pain to get rid of all the things that shouldn't have been funded. They have to default, and there has to be bankruptcies. It's going to be very, very bad. It's going to give us a great opportunity, but it's coming. I think we've already started it. And if labeled this, you're only going to experience this 3 times in your lifetime. Let me go to my very next slide. Let's just talk about that, and let's see what's going on. So we're paying the price now for the everything bubble. It's going to be coming. I think we're going to be, all of us start being affected by it now. Personally, I think we're just looking at this. I think it's just starting. I think we're going to start seeing this to the point where you're going to start seeing more labor unemployment. Now, unemployment is really a lagging indicator. I know this is sometimes people say, well, employment's still holding up. It generally holds up right into a recession. I think we're already in a recession before labor starts to fall, but we are all going to start paying for this everything bubble that the people in power decided was going to happen to us. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of stories. People say a lot of things that the people at the Federal Reserve, they just don't understand. The White House and the administration and the Federal Reserve, they're just not smart enough to understand the consequences. Well, you don't get to these positions in power by being stupid. These are one of the most brilliant people on the planet. They all understood exactly what was going to happen, and we are now going to pay that consequence. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? And how are you going to profit from it? So let's just go to the rest of these slides, and let's start figuring out what we can do to try and make some money and mitigate some of the effects that we're going to have, because this everything bubble is in the process of popping. So this is, our finances are at risk, our jobs are certainly at risk, and our assets are at risk. So now, if you are in the equity market, I would say you really need to talk to your financial advisor and see what your exposure is. Now, not all companies are going to crash. They're not all going to go to zero. Some are going to prosper. So you really need to talk to someone who's in the equity business, and they need to talk to you about your risk tolerance, your horizon, and find out what is good for you and what's not good for you, because some of these will do well. Some of them have dividends, and there's difference. You can get gold, you can get silver, you can get commodities, you can get into high tech, you can get into old industrial. So you need to talk to your financial advisor, because I think we're pretty fully valued. And I saw this chart. It just resonates with me. I think this is just a great chart, and I do think we are very, very close to a rollover here, because I think the recession is going to be upon us, and it should be very, very evident by the time we get into the third quarter. Now, we have talked about ad infinitum about the fact that if you don't have fuel in the tank of your car, you are going nowhere. So the Federal Reserve has systematically taken fuel out of the economy. It's been draining the banks. It's been draining the economy. We've actually had banks around the world calling the Federal Reserve saying, we need some liquidity. We need some money. When Credit Suisse went down, the Swiss National Bank actually had gone to the Federal Reserve and did a credit swap. They did a credit swap of, they got $100 million in US dollars so they could backstop the Credit Suisse. And they knew that was coming down. So they did that. So they had to go to the Federal Reserve and borrow money. So everybody's borrowing money. However, they're taking it out of the system. So you and I don't see this. And the fuel is being reduced by 90 billion a month. That's over $1 trillion a year. And you can see by the charts, just look at the chart, and you can see the drain on the M2 and on the liquidity, and it's having its effect. So we are seeing demand fall off the chart. I mean, you can just see it. It's in the PPI, and I think we're going to see lower prices. We're actually probably going to have some deflation. This will be good for you. We know that eggs are starting to come down. We know that we're starting to see the cattle herds build up a little bit, and chickens are coming. So we're going to see some lower prices on them. You can just see them in the PPI, so that's good. But it also means that assets are coming down. So if you're fully valued in your asset classes, you need to be very careful where you're at, because we're seeing it not only in PPI, but we're starting to see manufacturing orders. So this is the future pipeline is going negative, and that's a very bad thing. We are seeing severe correction in most of the federal districts. Now, this is in Chicago. We've got it in, we have it in New York. We have it in Dallas. So we're seeing contraction across all the districts. And of course, people are saying, well, we don't have any recession. We don't have it fully employed. That's just not it. The charts are not lying. We're just not recognizing it yet. But personally, I think we are in a recession. It's coming very quickly. Let me go to my very next slide here. And it is not just going to be confined to the United States. Europe is going into this. We know that Germany's already in contraction for 2 quarters already. So France is in trouble. England is in trouble. Canada certainly in trouble. Australia is in trouble. And now we're getting PMI from the second largest economy in the world, and that's China. They are also contracting. So this is not just going to be confined to one country or group of countries. It's going to be worldwide. Now, in 2008 and 2009, China went on this huge binge. They spent billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they went into debt. And they saved the rest of the world because they just ordered everything, and they got us going. There's no such thing this time. So we're kind of in trouble on this line. So what does this mean to us in the real estate business? Well, I'm going to tell you the direction of the real estate market is down. So now as investors, we need to make some decisions. Are we going to hold this property, or are we not? So if you have properties that are marginal, that you've been thinking, gosh, I don't know if I want to keep this property, boy, you better talk to your broker and find out and make that decision what's going on, because I'm going to tell you the direction of the market is down. So it doesn't go straight down, it does squiggle, you know that. I mean, nothing goes straight down. It's pretty rare. We may have one of those that's called a waterfall effect, but they never really just go down automatically. Good properties are always in demand. If your property's not a good property and you want to get rid of it, you better talk to your broker now and talk about doing something to that right now, because the direction is down. So this is very, very similar to like 2006, 2007, when the market started to stagnate and prices started to slow. So let me go to my next slide here. And look what's happening. Now, I know that people that are in the commercial are really probably going to take the brunt of this problem. So San Francisco, I kind of been beating up, but I think we do have a lot of endangered cities. So if you go look at my videos talking about the endangered cities, I kind of enumerated a few of these. We kind of took a look at them. If you have properties in those cities, you need to decide, what are you going to do? Because if you keep them, you need to commit to keeping them for 5 years. Now, a lot of stuff can happen in 5 years. I have highly recommended in some of these endangered cities, you talk to your brokers, start thinking of doing a 1031 exchange, and get into a better market. Florida, Texas, and Arizona are great alternatives for you. Yes, it's going to cost you some money, but long term, I think it could really, really cost you if you make the wrong decision on this. So you need to be careful. Now, look what's happening in San Francisco. This building at 350 California Street was on the market in 2020 for $250 million. This is commercial. They don't just throw it on the market, hoping we're going to get somewhere close to this number. They put $250 million because they expected it to sell for $250 million. Do you understand that? They expected it to sell for $250 million. And of course, it didn't. It sold for $60 million. And because it sold for $60 million, it took a 75% haircut. Now, how is it possible for you to lose 75% on your money? You can do that. You can see that this is happening. Let me go to my next slide. It's talking about San Francisco. Now, San Francisco, I'm just picking on. They're all over the country. So when you start talking about Chicago, and you start talking about St. Louis, Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, New York City. A lot of these places are in desperate shape. Look what's going on. I want to just tell you, because we've been picking on San Francisco because it's so easy to pick on. So here it is. We just got this back, I think yesterday, the other day, is that Park Hotels and Resorts have announced that they are letting go of 2 properties in San Francisco. One in San Francisco Union Square, 1,900 room Hilton. They're not going to make the payments anymore on the debt. They have $725 million in these 2 hotels. One is at the Park 55 in San Francisco, over 1,000 rooms. They've decided that they're going to let these go, and they're not going to do this anymore. So they are concerned that these two hotels can take down their whole system because they're not getting your revenue. Now, if you were a industry and you were going to hold a convention, would you go to San Francisco? Would San Francisco come right to your mind and say, "Oh yeah, let's go to San Francisco and hold our convention," where they're having all kinds of problems, where they're having civil disobedience, they've got drugs, they got crime, got homelessness. Would you go there? Of course not. And these hotels are really struggling for this, but they're not alone. So let me go to the next thing. So in Los Angeles, they have so much vacancy that they can fill the bank tower. Now, the bank tower in San Francisco is a 20-story building, and it's an icon in Los Angeles. Everybody goes, "Oh, well, there's the bank tower." I want to tell you that there's so much vacancy, we can fill 30 of them. So when you can fill 30 vacant properties, that means your transportation system, that there's no tolls, there's no taking a subway or the buses. They're not coming in and buying lunch and dinner at the restaurants. They're not shopping in the retail stores. The cabbies are all having trouble. Anything that's relying on people coming to the central city is in trouble. No entertainment, restaurants, they're not coming, and it's spiraling, and it's getting worse. So look what's going on in New York. You have the Empire State Building, which is another icon. There is so much vacancy, they can fill 26 Empire State Buildings, and it's collapsing. It's getting worse. So why would you go there? If you have properties in these places, you need to start talking to your advisors and say, what are my alternatives? Again, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. And I'll beat my drum here a little bit because Phoenix is doing very well. We're not going to be immune from this, but we have a tremendous amount of upside here. It's just everybody's leaving and coming here, so that's going to make the difference. Keep in mind that a lot of these problems, of course, are regional, and not every region is going to suffer. But I do think that we're going to have some problems across the states. And these cities that I've identified are going to be the ones that are going to suffer the most. So if you have investments there, talk to your advisor, talk to your brokers, make a long-term plan. Because if you don't come out now, you need to commit for at least 5 years. And so you need to really start thinking, what is this going to look like in 5 years? And what am I going to go through? It's not going to be pretty. There's nothing's going to go through here and say, oh, yeah, it's going to be just fine. It's not going to be just fine. But it can be better than nothing. It doesn't have to take you down. So I'm going to tell you, when we start talking about housing, which is in my index, we get seasonally adjusted, which is, it's almost a joke sometimes. It's that what do we need to adjust the data for to get to where we think it is? So we've been throwing a lot of them. So March adjusted, even adjusted, we've been having down housing sales. Unadjusted, it's falling like a rock. So unadjusted nationally, coming off the core Shiller composite, it's falling. So again, if you're a builder or if you're making some investments, you need to start thinking to myself, what am I going to do? What's this going to look like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now? So, and I'm going to tell you, now we're in the real estate industry. We are not correlated to much to the equities business or to bonds. We're in our own asset class, but we are economically sensitive and we're rate sensitive. And we have rates so high, it's the highest income requirements in mortgage lending ever, which is really just pushing people out of the market. So you may have a good job, but might not be good enough. So if you're not making enough money, you cannot buy a house. It's going to make you a tenant, which is good for us, good for investors, very bad for the economy. Owning your own home, there's so much other than just finances. There's so many good things that happen when you own your own home. You're a member of the community. You're vested in the area. Your kids have stability. It's just a wonderful thing. It's just a great thing for home ownership. But I must tell you, Charles Hughes Smith just did an absolutely outstanding job. And we are seeing this all over in the fact that we are seeing interest rates are, like today they're running over 7%, 7.25%. That's very, very difficult for a lot of people. It drives the payments up. And of course, prices are still high. So if they can't afford the payments, what happens to the prices? This This is not brain surgery we're doing here. It's not rocket science. If you can only afford, $3,000 a month, what does $3,000 a month buy you? And if your house isn't in something they can afford, you either keep your house or you have to bring it down to the price people can afford. That's just the two things that you can do. So let me stop here. I need your support in subscribing. Now I'm pretty close to 1,000 subscribers. That's a big deal with YouTube. We're not going to send you solicitations and ask you to buy Easter baskets or Mother's Day presents. We just want to get our subscribers up. If you like the content we bring, I try really, really hard to bring you very current content. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe and help us out. And a lot of this data is in some of our old videos, and you're welcome to take a look at them. We've had some very, very good interviews with Charles Nenner and Michael Pinto have just been outstanding. So let me get going to my next slide. Enough of that. So here's what we're seeing for investors. Now, we have been on a moratorium since March of 2022 for new money. Now, that doesn't mean we're not doing 1031 exchanges. That'd be just absolutely silly not to do that. So we have a lot of people coming out of the west coast of the United States because we're here in Arizona and Phoenix. So people coming out of Seattle. You've got an investment property in Seattle. You've got great big capital gains build up in there. You want to sell that property and move it elsewhere. Now, of course, if you just sell it straight up, you're going to have a big capital gain tax to pay. So in order to avoid that, we do a lot of 1031 exchanges. That's great probably makes perfect business sense to do that. You can sell your things in California, Seattle, and come here to Phoenix, and we're probably have a better market, better homes at a much, much lower price. So makes absolutely perfect sense to do that. Now we're seeing a lot of that 1031. The same thing when you sell your home. So you have money that's already in the marketplace. You bought a house 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. You've got a buildup in the equity. You've got principal reduction. You sell that house and you buy another one. That makes perfect sense. Where we have been having trouble is putting new money in, making new adjustments, because that means we season. And again, I think that the direction of the marketplace is down, and it could be down fairly severely. Now, must not be the only one thinking that, because we've had investor purchases have just dropped off a cliff and are really, really low, below a great financial crisis. That's why I keep saying to you, we're approaching levels of great financial crisis at its peak already. And a lot of people haven't even recognized that we have a recession. So that makes a recession very, very possible to be severe. And if it's severe, you need to keep that cash. Keep your cash, keep your credit, keep your income revenue up as much as you can, and try not to buy things that you don't need, so we can build some cash up, because there's going to be a phenomenal buying opportunity coming. Just an incredible buying opportunity. So here we are talking about Phoenix. Now, Phoenix has just been doing exceptionally well. We've got, Maricopa County, where Phoenix is at, it's been the #1 growth county for many, many years. A lot of states get it because there's not too much population here in Arizona. We're not like Florida, where the whole state gets it. In Phoenix, we only get so much, because there's just Phoenix and a couple other cities. So Maricopa County has been the #1 in the United States. And it does very, very well. We have, if you come on, you want to talk to me, we'll just talk about the growth. The growth is just off the charts, probably the #1 growth market in the United States. And that said, you can see that we have got, finally, the rate of change has gone negative for March. It's taken a full year, because we were we had a lot of appreciation, and that appreciation, all the errors come out of it. And we're now going negative for the first time. Now, this is March, so it's 60 days behind. That's just the nature of the reporting system for this. I expect it's probably even a little more negative to it. I think it's going to go a lot negative. Now, I put the slide in here because CNBC just had Dr. Robert Schiller on, and Dr. Schiller said that in his experience, he thinks that the market is going to continue down, and he thinks it's very, very high in the market right now. So why would you want to buy at the peak of the market? Now, when they say it's at the peak, what does that mean when it's the peak? It means it's not going up anymore. It's peaked. So if you've got the opportunity to buy, why don't you just wait just a little bit? You don't always have to buy. You can kind of wait just a little bit. I know exactly how this works. So we're going to go over some of my statistics. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to call us. You'll know how to get hold of us. and we'll be more than happy to talk to you and your spouse and your financial advisor. Now, here's my concern is I think that in my timing model, we do it stylized so that you can see it without all the squiggles. Nothing goes straight up and down. It does move around. But I think that when you get to the top of the cycle, there's generally two peaks. That's textbook. So the first peak is in March 2022. That is almost, it looks positive. I'm feeling really good that March 22 was the peak. Some people say it was April. Some even say it was May. I'm not going to quibble over 40 days, but it certainly is in. And I think that this little squiggle here, I think that's the second and final peak. And I think that that's forming now, which means that when we start getting into the third quarter this year, I think we're really, really going to start seeing it. And I think it could be pretty severe. So I also got this from John Wake. And this is another good one. And again, you can clearly see the first peak and you can see the second peak forming. So that's a danger sign for us. So I would say to you, you need to be very, very careful. If you're going to sell something, get on the market, get it sold. Don't hold out for that last dollar because there might not be such a thing as the last dollar for you. So here's where we are. This is a stylized version of what I've been talking about. I think we are at the top, and I think that we can come around. And once we clear the top, could be a waterfall effect. That's we've seen that before where prices come down because there's no bid. No one wants to buy anything. So in order for you to sell it, you really got to do it cheap, and things just collapse, and the market just stops. Now, I think that could be coming to us, and I would say could start as soon as the third quarter of 2023, which I plead with you. If you've got something to get sold, you need to get this done. Now, this is put it together by Charles Hughes Smith. I agree with him. I think nationally we could see a 30%, might even see that here in Phoenix, Arizona. It would be a great buying opportunity if that were the case. But he thinks we could get down to 60%, which would be probably a total retracement on the asset bubble of the real estate. And I think that we have 30% baked in from the top to the bottom. Now, we're already seeing that in San Francisco. San Francisco, again, regional, could get worse than here. It could easily. Could you take 60%? Yeah. So if you bought a place for $2 million, which is normal in San Francisco, it's one of the reasons that they're having problems, and you lost 60%, would mean you lose $1.2 million on your house. And if you put 20% down and lost 60%, well, you're underwater. This is going to be a credit event. So maybe it happens, but some of the endangered cities certainly at risk. That's why I'm pleading with you. Talk to your brokers. Find out if this is something that you need to be concerned about. And if it is, I'm more than happy to work with your brokers. We'll try and figure out what's a good solution for you. Florida, Texas, Arizona. If you're coming here to Arizona, goodness, we've got all kinds of good properties for you that have long-term prospects. We'll be very careful with you. Make sure we get you good ones. But long-term, that's not saying we're not going to see some downturn here. I think we will too. But no, I don't think we're going to be anywhere severe as some of the other places in our endangered city list. So what does all this bad news mean? Really, what does this bad news mean for you? It means you need to really be careful. Build that cash reserve. Cash is going to be king. Make sure that you keep your income streams in as tight as you possibly can. Try and work with your tenants. We've been talking for the last year and a half that we are maximizing tenant, not maximizing rent. So we have been working very, very diligently to try and keep our costs down and to keep our tenants in place so we can limit our vacancy factor. And of course, good tenants, we don't have as many, we don't have anywhere near the maintenance issues with them, management issues. If we have management issues and maintenance issues, out they go. We're looking for a maximum tenant. But also means there may be some opportunity coming from you. So if you can save your money, it's going to take a little bit of time. I put BlackRock in it because the rumor on the street is that they put together $50 billion in cash already to buy American single-family homes. Now, if they're going to do it, you got to know what's good for you. So we'd like you to do that. Now, this is a timing. They are waiting for an entry level to come in. They're looking for an entry point. And once it comes in, they're going to start buying. Now, we're going to suggest you do that too. You are going to be so scared. You're going to say, I don't want to do nothing. I understand that. But we're going to tell you it's time to pull the trigger. And when we tell you it's time to pull the trigger, you need to do that. Again, we have a buy protocol. When that buy protocol goes active, it's time to buy. Now, in 2009, when we had the buy protocol activate again, there was just tons and tons of really, really stunning properties available, and they got all gobbled up. And that's what happens. People get very, very scared. They don't want to do anything. They pull their horns in and they say, no, I'm not going to do anything. That's when you need to buy. That is when generational money is made. So only 3 times in your life are you going to get this opportunity. Only 3 times in your life are you going to see this kind of turmoil in the markets, and it's coming. There's turmoil coming. There's no getting around it. We're certainly going to have turmoil, but only 3 times in your life are you going to have this opportunity coming to you to make these wonderful buys, and you need to save your money. You need to build that cash reserve as much as you possibly can. You need to protect your credit. You need to limit your spending. You need to make sure that your income streams are good. Keep sure that your jobs, do a great job. Try and limit your costs, because you are going to get an opportunity to make enormous buys. Stuff that will put you in for the rest of your life, probably generations. So in 2009, we were buying homes below cost. We were getting them for $50 a square foot, a 5-year-old home at $50 a square foot. And they had dropped from 150. They went down to a third of what they were. They were actually sold below cost. That may very well be coming now. Now, probably not Florida, Texas, and Arizona, but some of these other cities. So you need to know where you're looking. But these other cities and states are going to afford very, very good opportunities, and the growth will probably far exceed other places. But call us. We'll put our heads together and see what we can do to try and find out what is going to be good for you. We'll do our very best for you. You know, I've been doing this for a really, really long time. We have great staff. You're welcome to call me. I'll put my email in here, but you're welcome to reach me at West USA. They hold our license. You know, they're kind of they do our back office and keep us in compliance, do the paperwork for us. And I'll give you this number, 602-942-4200. My very, very best to you guys. Bye-bye now.